Alright everybody, episode 5 of our Bloodborne series. We're going to be painting the female beast patient. This is going to be a new kind of tutorial that I've done in other tutorials in the past where I'm using a quick shade rather than our normal shades. But if you don't have it, it's not a big deal. But we'll talk through it and we'll figure that out. If this is your first time at the channel and you want to follow what we're doing here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as we are trying to grow the channel and whatnot. So sit back, enjoy, turn some music on, get your paints ready because we're going hard in the paint. All right, let's go. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to scrape off all those ugly mold lines. If you are watching this tutorial and you need any of these supplies, please check the links in the comments below, and I have direct links to everything you're going to need. Next, we're going to use some sticky tack or some double-sided tape, whatever you have, and we're going to mount them onto old spray can tops. And then we're going to prime our miniatures. Now I'm using an airbrush, and you'll see why here in a minute, but you don't need it. If you want to use black spray paint, like Chaos Black spray paint from Citadel or Army Painter or whatever you have, use that. Obviously, once it's all done, you're going to have a nice black prime. Alright, I'm going to be using some airbrush thinner, and again, you don't need to do this, but I'm going to be loading up my airbrush with a little airbrush thinner, and I'm using some Karak Stone to load up my airbrush. If you do not have an airbrush, just paint them normally. We're going to be painting all the outside cloth with a brush and thinning your paints normally like we always talk about, and we're going to be painting it with Karak Stone. If you are using an airbrush, follow this tutorial. If you're not and you're just painting normal, obviously skip ahead because you don't need to watch this. But we are going to be doing layers of Karak Stone on top of our miniature. And we're doing it very lightly with our airbrush. We don't want to overdo it, and we are building up our contrast. And we're just going one at a time, very slowly building up our Karak Stone. And we're letting it just dry a little bit, and then we're doing the next one, and then dry, doing the next one, and then we're slowly building up. If you're painting it, just paint it on. You might need 2 layers. Let the first layer dry completely, and then put that second one on. And this should be about the color we want right here, maybe just a little bit darker. And as you can see, the miniatures are fully coated in our Karak Stone. So, did you need to do this? No, but I already had it out, so I did it anyway. Now you can initially skip this step. When I started doing this tutorial or painting it, I thought I wasn't going to do it in all of this, but I am. I'm going to be using some quick shade from Army Painter, the strong tone, and I have a link in the comments below. And we are going to be covering the cloth areas. We're going to be ending up doing the entire miniature in the strong tone. So if you, like I said, you want to skip this and wait till the end, do that. It's probably the smarter thing to do. So we're going to cover our miniature in this, and it's going to give it that nice brown, deep look. And if you don't have strong tone and you want to use just regular shade, use some Agrax Earth Shade, maybe 2 brushfuls of Agrax Earth Shade, and 1 drop of Nolan oil. And if you are using the quick shade, once they're completely dried, they're going to be glossy. And we're going to get rid of that here in a minute. I'll show you how to get rid of it. Normal water will not clean your brush with quick tone. So we're going to be using some mineral spirits that I got off Amazon. I'll link that too. And we are cleaning our brush with that. Once they are completely dry, they're going to have that glossy look. It typically takes about 24 hours to dry. I live in a very dry climate, so it took about an hour. We're going to start with some of our base coats, and the first thing we're going to do is all the cloth portions on our miniature are going to be Baneblade Brown. There we go. And we are going to be covering those cloth portions with that. Now you can tell that there is some tears in the cloth, that the skin is underneath, and obviously it's a beast, so we want it to look beasty, I guess you could say. And we are slowly just filling in those spots with the Baneblade Brown. And as I'm painting this miniature and I'm watching this, as you're watching this, there is a leg on the right hand side. If you're looking at the miniature, that is exposed, the fur is exposed, so don't paint that portion. As you're going to see in this next slide, paint up all the pants around it and obviously your hands, leaving the flesh or the fur exposed. And we're slowly just going around picking out all of the cloth portions. And I find when you're batch painting, meaning painting one or more miniatures of the same type, it can become a little tedious. So if you want to switch things up on some different ones and do things that are different to make them look different, obviously, you can. I push through it because batch painting is one of my... I can't stand it. Let's just put it that way. Alright, we're going to be going over all of our fur bits, so that includes the feet, the portions exposed by the legs, and our hands, and portions that are exposed in the arms. We're just going to be using a little Rhinox Hide, and we're just going to be doing the same thing we did with the pants, going one by one. It should only take one coat because this is a strong color, so just take your time and go through each one. And as you're looking at everything, you can see the abdominals. Now, if you're looking at the miniature from eye level and it's looking at you, you might not see all of these portions on the miniature because the hood drapes down so far. But I figured I would get this position, the abs I mean, because if somebody looks at it, you gotta make it, you gotta paint it. The only thing I'm not going to do is the inside of the cloak. I liked that gray look on the inside because of the shadows that it would cast, so I kept it that color. You can paint it black on the inside if you want, if you really want to make it, but I thought, you know what, let's skip that portion because we're trying to get through these models as quickly as possible. For the fingernails and the toenails, we're going to be using a little Wraithbone. If you don't have this, use Ushabti Bone or an off-white, like an egg color if you're not using Citadel paints. Holy crap. And we are just going through, picking out these fingernails and toenails, just taking our time. And I'm using a size 2-0 brush and to paint all these little areas. Now that all of our base tones are done, we are going to be using our Army Painter Strong Tone again. And if you do not have this, like I said, use some Agrax Earthshade, mix a little bit of Nolan Oil in there, and you should get the same result, basically. This just adds a little bit more depth, and it's really takes your miniature from a base coat look to a really strong depth. I think this Army Painter is a very good tool to use for these specific models because they're so dark and grimy and just gross, so that's why I'm using it. I'm probably going to use it in future videos as well. And once you've covered all of your miniatures, you got to set them out to dry. Now, if you live in a very damp climate, it's going to take you a while for these to dry, so maybe you let them sit overnight. Like I said, I live in a very dry climate, so it doesn't take very long for it to dry. Once you're done, we're going to spray some Testor's Dull Coat. If you don't have this, I have it linked below in the comments. Go ahead and spray all those down and let them dry completely, and it's going to take all of that gloss off. Alright, once it's completely dry and you made sure there's no glossy portions left that you need to spray down again, we're going to dry brush some Tallarn Sand onto our hooded cloth portion of our miniature. So when you get that in, make sure you get all that paint off your dry brush. Trust me, it's still on there. You don't want very much on there at all. And we are slowly going to build up our highlights on this miniature. We're going to do nice, easy strokes back and forth, and we are purposely trying to hit all of the raised areas. So on top of the head, on top of the shoulders, a little bit on the cape down below, but we're leaving those portions that are stuck in the shadows dark. We want those portions to be dark, and a contrast is developed between the tops and the portions that don't get a lot of sun. And as you can see, we're doing nice, easy back and forth strokes. We're not forcing our brush down this miniature's throat. We are just nice, easy strokes, building up those highlights. Next, we're going to take some Tyrant Skull, which is a dry paint from Citadel. And if you don't have this paint, there's a link in the comments below, but you can also just use whatever you have, just a lighter tone than we just used. And again, we are hitting just the top portions of our shoulders and the top portion of the back and the top of the head. And we are just doing real light strokes. We're just picking out, just barely just touching this thing. And we are just building up that contrast on the raised surfaces just a little bit more. Alright, once you're done with that, we're going to mix our next color. We're going to use Baneblade Brown that I'm using on my web palette, and we're going to mix a equal portion of Ushabti Bone, which is going to give you a very light colored brown. We're using this color to pick out all of our cloth portions onto the arms and the legs. The reason we're doing this is because they're kind of the same color between the hooded portion or cloak and the cloth that is around the beast patient. And we're just going to create some contrast that is going to make the miniature stand out from, oh, this is the hood, and then this is the pants and the shirt that the beast patient was wearing. And we're slowly just picking out pieces. You can do one layer of this if you want. If you want to build up a little bit more, you can go back and do two. And we're just taking the erased portions of the spots we're hitting, and that's all we're doing. The second color we're doing for the fur is we're going to take our original Rhinox Hide, and we're going to take an equal amount of Doombull Brown, and we're going to mix those two together on our wet palette or a well or whatever you're using. And we're going to take this color and we're going to start picking out pieces of our fur. Now, I basically went over, if you can imagine that the brown portion is 100% on a pie chart, we're picking out about 75%. And we're just making nice little highlights on the hands and the arms and the legs and the feet, and just kind of building up our contrast as well. We're also picking out portions of the abs, just the erased surfaces, so don't get into the recesses of our miniature, and just kind of building that up. You could skip the abs if you want to kind of make it a contrasted tone, but I ended up doing it. We're now going to highlight the fingernails and the toenails with a little screaming skull, just to kind of bring up that brightness a little bit, and that's all we're going to be doing for that. And we're just going to do a Abaddon Black paint onto our base of our miniature, because there's going to be colors and crap everywhere. And we're about done. I guess we are done. Yeah, that's it. That's all we had to do. And pretty decent looking beast patient for not a lot of steps. Real simple, real easy. Nothing crazy. Just making it look decent for the table. That's all we care about. We just want to play this game. I just want to say thank you for watching this episode, and if you are a subscriber, thank you for subscribing to this channel. It means a lot to me. Obviously, the more subscribers we have, the more motivation I have to make more videos. So thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, but we'll see you in the next episode. All right, paint on.